Mark, I just got to say, first of all, we kept doing this whole Will Tillis, Will Cornyn. I think folks cautioned us that we had seen this movie before, and here we are.
Yeah, I cautioned you. I mean, I've been saying for weeks now, there is no chance that there is any courage to be found anywhere in the Republican Senate. Okay. So you can keep searching for it. You can look in the corners. You can look in the rafters. You can look under the desk. It doesn't exist. They do the same kabuki theater every time. Usually it's Susan Collins. Sometimes it's Thom Tillis. Add John Cornyn in. Didn't have that on my bingo card. But nobody in this country. Don't forget
Cassidy. Cassidy's still saying he's not sure.
Oh yeah, Cassidy. Absolutely. Right. I don't wager. I don't bet. But if I did, always bet against Republicans having courage, because that will always be the winning bet.
I am struck, Liz, by the fact that Blanche already has his fingerprints all over DOJ. We don't really have to ask what his tenure is going to look like, because we have seen in action what it has been. What changes, though, if he does, in fact, get confirmed by the entire Senate?
What changes is he's basically now got a mandate. His leadership has a mandate. And these senators who got involved in trying to sort of pretend they were going to block him actually made matters worse, because they have now endorsed the corrupt deal that he signed, the settlement fund with Donald Trump. They've endorsed the immunity agreement. They've said they're satisfied with where things landed. They got no meaningful concessions. The documents that Blanche came forward with to save his confirmation were really just a sham. They did not change anything as a matter of law. And now he has their blessing to go forth and govern in the manner in which he has, which is totally corrupt and serves only the interests of Donald Trump. So I think, unfortunately, this opposition by these two senators has really backfired and empowered Blanche in a way that he was not before. He is going to be incredibly dangerous once he is fully unleashed with Senate confirmation behind him.
Mark, let's just say, for example, that this order did, in fact, kill the so-called anti-weaponization fund. Still a big if. Congressman Raskin has argued there are other ways the administration could try to reward January 6 rioters with tax dollars. Take a listen.
If you're a Proud Boy, an Oath Keeper, another convicted January 6 felon who beat up a police officer, you don't care what the check is drawn on. I've already written a number of checks out of the Judgment Fund, the general fund that is there for actual verdicts against the United States. So it's very clear where they're going. If he feels so bad about it, why doesn't he put half of the money he made over the last year to pay his own foot soldiers in his private militia? Yes. Why should the rest of us be paying?
Well, because he has an aversion to paying for just about anything. Let me answer that rhetorical question there, Mark Elias, for Congressman Raskin. But why all this fanfare over this big settlement deal if they could have just paid people through what Raskin is describing as normal channels?
Look, I mean, the fanfare for Thom Tillis and John Cornyn is really simple. They want to hit the cocktail circuit. And so they did what they needed to do. For polite company, they are able to now say they accomplished something with respect to this disgusting slush fund. And in reality, they did almost nothing with regard to the disgusting slush fund in practice. Plus, they let Donald Trump keep the benefits of not being audited. So, as they go out into the post-Senate life, they want to make sure they're still invited to all the right parties, all the right after parties, all the right embassy events, what we all need to recognize is that they are just the same MAGA that they've always been. They are no different. They are no better. They are the same MAGA as the rest of them. And what they did here was give Donald Trump ultimately what he wanted.
Liz, was this all of this theater just a way to slide in the IRS immunity piece?
I think that that's the only piece that Donald Trump has really cared about all along. I mean, the slush fund for his supporters is nice to have, and he can claim victory by saying, I tried to get this incredible amount of money allocated to pay these people who've supported me. And then if it doesn't actually work out, he doesn't really care. But he does really care about that immunity agreement because it is incredibly valuable to him. I mean, last year alone, Donald Trump made over $2 billion billion. There is nothing to make him pay his taxes on that money at this point. The immunity agreement says he can't be audited. The government cannot pursue unpaid taxes against Donald Trump for the last year, which is probably hundreds of millions of dollars that he owes. If he chooses not to pay them, there is really nothing that we can do about it thanks to this immunity agreement. So that is incredibly valuable to Trump as well as his sons and his companies. And I think that all along that has been the only piece of this deal that he's really cared about. And it remains intact even after the statements of Cornyn and Tillis, despite their claim that Blanche has made some concessions. He really has not made any concessions on the immunity agreement.
Because one of the things we know, Mark Elias, is that Trump will pressure whoever is AG to pursue what he wants, not just big picture. He's going to micromanage specific cases. The latest example, the reflecting pool case. For weeks, Trump declared that the pool lining was damaged by vandalism. He said they had video. And then you fast forward to Jeanine Pirro dropping the case because actually it was shoddy contractor work. I want you to take a listen to how the president reacted to that move.
Choked because the judge was really vicious. Instead of going after the people that did it, the judge went after her and went after her department. And I guess she choked. I don't know what the hell happened. I was disappointed with Jeanine Pirro, really disappointed with Jeanine Pirro. She folded like an umbrella, and people get away with things, and it's a disgrace.
Eugene Daniels made the argument to me, friends, that umbrellas do not fold, they collapse, just to do a fact check on whatever that turn of phrase was there. It's like interesting, Mark, this is what they're afraid of, right? Like the verbal lashing from behind the Resolute desk is what they're afraid of. So there's that, but then there's also the reality that we keep watching this happen, where all of his high profile pet prosecutions fail because they do not have the evidence to back up his claims.
Yeah, look, I wrote about this for Democracy Docket. You know, I was up against Rudy Giuliani and Donald Trump and his lawyers in the aftermath of the 2020 election. And one of the things that was clear is that they would say a whole lot of stuff in the parking lot. You know, for example, in the parking lot of a landscaping company where Rudy Giuliani said there was massive fraud. But then when they actually stood before federal judges, they changed their tune, right? Rudy Giuliani famously told the judge in Pennsylvania there was, quote, no fraud. This was not a fraud case, right? So like we've seen this dichotomy before where it's easy for Jeanine Pirro to stand behind a microphone and tell a whole bunch of, lies and misstatements about David Hearn. It's a whole other thing, though, when they're facing the prospects of being hauled before a federal court and being asked to explain why it is that they have indicted someone who so clearly had not done anything wrong. And we are watching the consequences of that. I mean, one of the things that Sheldon Whitehouse pointed out in the clip you showed at the beginning is that Todd Blanche himself is in hot water in a federal court in Florida. And the ethics challenges that have faced DOJ lawyers for refusing to acknowledge what is obviously true is a real and credible threat. And I really suspect, okay, I don't know anything, but insider, but my antenna goes off. I suspect that the true story of what happened in the DC U.S. Attorney's Office is that some set of lawyers basically went to Jeanine Pirro and said, we're not going to get disciplined or disbarred for this dumb case. We are going to either dismiss it or blow the whistle.
It's still bad for democracy, Liz, right? Like the whole thing, even though this has reached its natural conclusion, which is they had no evidence, to Mark's point, attorneys probably said, I don't want to do this and put my name on this. And so she had to walk it back. The fact that the charges were ever brought in the first place tells you that our democracy is already in a very bad place under this DOJ and this president.
Yeah, Alicia. So what's so shocking about this case is that it was brought in the first place without any meaningful investigation. They charged Hearn with a felony, which is the most serious possible charge, alleging that he caused damage valued at over $1,000 to the reflecting pool, apparently without investigating whether there was any evidence that he actually caused that amount of damage. The investigation is supposed to come first. That is a basic principle of prosecuting cases. You investigate to determine that you have the proof before you bring the charges. That is not what happened here. And in my mind, what was put in this motion to dismiss that Pirro filed, saying that the Department of Interior has all this evidence that suggests that, in fact, Hearn did not damage the reflecting pool and it was already badly damaged, that should have been known before the charges were brought. And the fact that they went ahead without doing that investigation really just illustrates that someone should be disciplined here, whether it's Pirro or the attorneys who went into the grand jury. Bringing a charge that potentially deprives someone of their liberty and their constitutional rights is a very serious matter. And the fact that they went forward without conducting the investigation should be grounds for discipline against some or perhaps multiple attorneys in the D.C. U.S. Attorney's Office.
Mark, the fight for our democracy is taking multiple forms. You're fighting in court to prevent Trump from getting his hands on state voter data. So, he's winless in court. In fact, moments ago, his 20th court loss just crossed, this time in Colorado. Eventually, it'll get to the Supreme Court. What happens after that?
All right. Just a little bit about how badly they are losing. As you point out, they have filed 30 cases. They are now 0-20. Of those 20, 12 of them were decided by Republican appointees. Of the 12, 8 of them were by judges appointed by Donald Trump himself. Okay, so they are not winning anywhere. There are now more than 270 electoral votes represented by the states that they have lost. When you look down the list, I am now willing to say they are going to go over 30. I mean, the only way they don't go over 30 is if a court of appeals, is on the precipice of giving them another loss. And some of the district court judges are just like, let's wait for the court of appeals. But you are right. This is eventually going to go to the U.S. Supreme Court. And the good news for 2026 is that tomorrow is a very important day. Tomorrow is the 90th day before the midterm elections, and that means it is the beginning of what is called the quiet period. So starting tomorrow, states may no longer make mass removals from their voter files. They may no longer purge voters except on an individualized basis. So come tomorrow, you'll be seeing a celebration over here. Maybe I'll even put on a little party hat that this has failed, at least for 2026, but we're going to keep fighting it, because this is going to be a fight that keeps going, obviously, beyond the midterms.